Hello everyone, welcome to the Buzz the Prey Manga. Today we continue the latest Global Freeze chapter, rewritten and edited by me in English for a smooth reading experience. All visuals and story flow are personally edited to give you the best manga style storytelling. Support the original creator by checking the
Chapter
official manga. So
2880,
let's
You Think
dive
You're a
right
Serial
into the
Killer?
today's
After
chapter.
being questioned by Zhang Yi, Kong simply blinked and said helplessly, "You've misunderstood. I just activated my ability, and the reason you didn't sense it is because..." She opened her beautiful eyes, a hint of mockery flashing in them. "That's simply because your abilities are too weak, nothing more." Many people in the shadows were already furious at this moment. The other party actually dared to provoke Zhang Yi in the spatial domain, which is Zhang Yi's forte. Zhang Yi's friends absolutely could not tolerate this behavior, and even Luo Qiao Shunfeng was surprised that this person dared to say such things in front of Zhang Yi. But unexpectedly, Zhang Yi himself didn't show any reaction on his face. What a joke. There are plenty of people better than me. Has I ever said anything? Every time he met Bai Longzi, he showed him more respect than if he were meeting his own father. When you can't beat someone, just act like a coward for now. When you become stronger, you'll have plenty of time to get revenge. As a person, you have to learn to make do with what you have and never take things too seriously. Oh, you're pretty good then. Zhang Yi simply said it calmly. Seeing that Zhang Yi wasn't angry, Kong couldn't help but smile. I was just joking with you. You really are as legendary as they say, a very steady man. In fact, the ability of does not need to be realized through the oscillation space, so you can't feel anything. She held up two fingers and pointed to her eyes. It's like your eyes can see things 1,000 kilometers away. You don't need to rely on any external objects or activate any abilities. You can see purely by yourself. Do you understand now? Do you think you understand now? Zhang Yi asked. Time and space explained patiently. It's roughly equivalent to this concept. If we compare space to a vast ocean full of flowing water, there are various underwater mountains, rocks, coral reefs, and schools of fish in this ocean. Even if they don't move, but just exist there, they will create special fluctuations when the water flows. With this explanation, Zhang Yi understood. No wonder the other party was so confident. Even these materials that could isolate alien energy could not prevent him from using his abilities. But at this moment, Luo Qiao, who was standing next to me, quietly raised a question. If your abilities are so powerful, then why couldn't you avoid those wild puppet groups before, and why were you found by them? Thinks this is a bug, believes that time and space are lying, and deliberately approaches. Time and space-time helplessly shrugged. That's how it was supposed to be, but for some reason, suddenly, a large group of wild puppets started to riot and began attacking everywhere. Now there's no safe place anywhere on the entire experimental planet, and those guys have a very keen sense of smell, so you can forget about hiding. Everyone's eyes instinctively turned to Zhang Yi. It turned out that Zhang Yi was the culprit. Zhang Yi wasn't embarrassed at all. In fact, Zhang Yi has always been someone who dares to do things, but doesn't dare to take responsibility for them. I see. I wonder who did this. This person has gone too far. Soon, Lu Karen and Yang Xinxin had obtained a large amount of data by infiltrating the experimental star network. She said to Zhang Yi, just like we imagine, this planet originally had an extremely powerful cyber network, but it has been destroyed by the 6 super races. Right now, there are big vulnerabilities in the defenses here, so you can go deep inside. A glint suddenly flashed in her eyes. Within the data network, there is a huge black hole region that we cannot penetrate, but this also directly points out the way for us. That must be the location of the control area within the experimental star. So, what do? Should we charge now? Time and space asked. Zhang Yi pondered for a long time, and now he had two choices in front of him. First, these people, acting alone, ventured deep into enemy territory and charged towards the very center of the experimental planet. If the defenses there are no longer strong, they will be the first to obtain everything most precious on the experimental planet, but there may also be huge risks involved. If there is an extremely powerful attack force deep within the experimental planet, Zhang Yi and his team may find themselves in a dangerous situation. The second option is to inform the other races on the experimental planet of this news, and everyone can go together. This way, the risks can be shared, but there is also a possibility that someone else will steal the treasure from the experimental planet. After a fierce internal struggle, Zhang Yi made his choice. Let's go first. Even if we encounter danger, we are extremely confident that we can lead everyone away safely. After all, nowadays, apart from some superhumans with special abilities, a purely strength-based superhuman would need to be at least at the queen level to pose a threat to their life. The phrase absolute defense is no joke. While you might not be able to defeat everyone in a fight, you're undoubtedly number one in terms of escaping. Zhang Yi looked at time and space and said to, "You should lead the way and pave a safe road for us." Shirkong lowered his head and pondered for a moment, then smiled and said to Zhang Yi, "I know you don't trust me yet, but I hope that when I'm clearing the way, you won't attack my back. Is that all right?" Zhang Yi said speechlessly, "Do you think I was born a killer? As long as you have no ill intentions towards me, I won't lay a hand on you." Shirkong nodded. Then Yang Xinxin confirmed the direction, while Shirkong went ahead to explore and clear a path. This temporary assembly quickly moved deeper into the experimental star. On the experimental planet, experts abound, and top geniuses and powerhouses from all races gather here. After a brief period of trouble, those geniuses quickly found ways to deal with the desolate creatures, and more people began to realize that a huge treasure existed here. First, there's the flesh and blood core of the desolate puppet. Even a queen-level expert would find it difficult to completely destroy it. If its material structure could be thoroughly studied and mass-produced, the benefits would be unimaginable. However, this kind of technology is not easy to break through. So many people speculate that there must be a lot of experimental data deep in this experimental star, which is a great treasure that surpasses everything. Above the sky, a figure descended upon this place, looking somewhat disheveled. This person was the same Black Knight-level powerhouse who had previously secretly attacked and killed Zhang Yi, including Vampire Edward, Spider Demon Ramped, and Nor Barber. Now that all of their men have been killed by Uncle Yu and his men, they are unwilling to retreat and can only act alone. Chapter 2881 following Zhang Yi and his group all the way to this star field. But unexpectedly, as soon as it appeared in the starry sky, it was entangled by those unkillable monsters and was eventually forced to land here. Edward glanced at the remaining conversation logs on the communication channel and said to the others, "Chaos and his forces have also arrived here. The signal here has been completely cut off, making it an excellent hunting ground for us. How about it? Want to give it a try? But we don't even know where his is. How are we supposed to find him?" The spider demon Ramped slumped over, somewhat annoyed, and said. Edward smiled faintly. "They must have come here for a purpose. If it were just to escape, there would be no need for them to descend upon the mother planet where those desolate puppets were born. Therefore, whether they want to find a way to completely disable these desolate puppets or to investigate the core technology of creating desolate puppets, they must go deep into the planet. As long as we keep chasing after him, we'll have a chance to meet him, and then..." He raised his gun, making a firing gesture. Bang. One shot, and he's dead. "You're always so confident," Barberta couldn't help but say, "but clearly, we haven't even resolved our own crisis yet." As soon as he finished speaking, hundreds of kilometers away in that direction, dozens of wild golems were already chasing after the firelight that had fallen from space and attacking them. For powerful superhumans who can be nourished by flesh and blood, Huang Kuei is particularly enthusiastic. These things are much tastier than hard, energy-poor steel that can only strengthen the body. Damn it! The spider demon Ramped cursed viciously. As a pure power-type character, practically a mobile biological turret, he hates these unkillable creatures the most. "Stop thinking about those useless things, let's take care of them first." Edward's gaze sharpened, and he raised the old-fashioned silver flintlock pistol to his right. The three were in the universe, and these wild puppets fought for a while, finding that these guys were difficult to kill. However, because they arrived later than Zhang Yi and his group, they missed some crucial information, such as how to deal with these guys by sealing them away, rather than using brute force to fight and kill them. Based on common sense, the three believed that no matter how bizarre the ability, it could be completely killed by suppressing it with an absolutely powerful superpower level. A fierce battle ensued. 2 hours later, the three fled in panic. Rand's body was bitten in hundreds of places, but thanks to his powerful self-healing ability and the stimulation of the drug, the flesh and blood in his wounds grew back, looking much more delicate than before. He landed somewhat disheveled deep within a pile of ruins, panting heavily. Our spider demon race is already quite resilient, but we never expected that these monsters would be even stronger than our flesh and blood. This is unreasonable. It's completely unreasonable. Their existence does not conform to the conservation of energy and ether. They can even absorb my demon-slaying cannon to become stronger. I can't continue fighting them. Otherwise, they might be able to kill me one-on-one. While cursing those damned savage puppets, Ramp was also relieved that he had managed to escape their pursuit. However, in that chaotic battle just now, Edward and Barberta got separated. He had to think about what to do next, but one thing was certain. The hunt for Zhang Yi had to be postponed for a while. Since we're already here, we should definitely take another trip to this damned planet. Maybe we can find something like relics of the Star Clan. If that's the case, then this trip won't be a waste. Then I can just steal a spaceship and leave this place. With that thought in mind, Ram decided to find a direction and continue forward. But just then, a series of light footsteps came from the shadows of the ruins ahead. Da. Rant frowned and looked ahead. He initially thought it was those damned monstrous puppets, but when he saw their appearance clearly, he dismissed the idea. There was a man covered in black armor, with 2 pairs of silver-gray metallic wings on his back, who looked cold and aloof. The other party didn't look like a wild puppet, because those guys with only a hunting instinct wouldn't be so calm.
What are you?
What race are you from? I can't help but ask, Rant asked calmly. Aside from encountering Zhang Yi, he wouldn't need to enter a state of combat readiness if he encountered any other race here, because no one understands better than him how terrifying the cost of attacking the allied forces here is. The man covered in black metallic armor glanced at him indifferently, then quickly responded in the exact same voice. I am the Shaved One, the type abandoned puppet, and also your punisher. Upon hearing the other party introduce himself, Rand's gaze sharpened instantly, and he immediately assumed a fighting stance. You're also a desolate puppet? Could it be that you're a remnant of the Starry Sky clan? He paid no attention to the man's wariness. A remnant of the Star Clan? No, I am merely a biological weapon. No outsiders are allowed to approach this area, so now. He pointed at Rant. I am going to execute you. He spoke the coldest words, yet his tone remained unchanged from beginning to end. This set off alarm bells in Rant's mind. However, in a one-on-one situation, as a peerless genius of the Black Knight level, he was not afraid of any opponent of the same level. He was only slightly worried that this guy, who called himself a type, one wild puppet, must be an evolved form that was much more powerful than the type, one wild puppets he had encountered before. In other words, this guy's body may possess all the advantages of those type 1 wild puppets, and he also has intelligence. I don't believe you guys are really invincible. No sooner had he finished speaking than Rant launched an attack. At the same time, his hundreds of compound eyes erupted with terrifying energy fluctuations. Boom, boom, boom. One after another, beams of demon-slaying light pierced through the distance of only a few hundred meters between them, arriving in front of the demon in an instant. A crimson light flashed in the eyes of the man shaved in his armor. Faced with Rant's attack, he neither dodged nor evaded, but suddenly the armor on his chest cracked. He opened his mouth in an extremely distorted way, forming a huge energy black hole in front of him, swallowing all the attacks into his belly. Chapter 2880, To the Power of Evolution. He absorbed all of Rant's attacks without taking a single step back. Moreover, white smoke rose from his armor, The black night-level attacks were something he absorbed with great pleasure. Ram's gaze turned serious. As expected, it's not much different from what I imagined. Seemingly in response to his attack, the shaved mouth suddenly condensed a powerful black energy ball, which, in the same way as Rant, reflected the attack back in an instant. Boom! The black light made the surrounding space appear dark. The black energy cannon's fluctuations were more solid and powerful than the attacks previously launched by Rant. Rant did not choose to dodge either, but instead opened his arms and faced the situation with his own body. With a deafening boom, all the energy slammed into him without any fancy moves, and in the end, the spider demon's powerful body absorbed all the damage. After the initial probing attacks by both sides, Rant finally unleashed his most powerful force, his body rapidly expanding into a mobile turret several meters high. However, when he launched another attack, it was not in the form of an energy cannon, but rather by charging at close range like a heavy tank. What's it like to feel like a mountain is crashing into someone at an incredible speed? Now, Rambut can tell you the answer. Although it was heavy, it did not mean that it was slow. On the contrary, it was an incredibly fast speed, and it arrived directly in front of the shaved one. Then, with its massive body and hard shell, it slammed into the body of the shaved one. Despite the attack, the shaver did not dodge at all, and was simply and plainly struck by the Rant's impact. Boom! Like a supersonic missile, it was instantly launched, crashing through thick walls along the way, and in a short time it was thousands of miles away. His body crashed heavily onto a pile of ruins. When he landed, his limbs were twisted, and even his waist was broken in two. Strangely, these seemingly fatal injuries did not linger on him for long. Soon, his body recovered completely, like a rubber man. Despite all this, Rant showed no surprise whatsoever, because he had already seen these characteristics in those Type 1 wild puppets, possessing powerful, even near-immortal, vitality and being able to adapt to almost all forms of attacks. However, Rant didn't think so. He believed that there was no such thing as an indestructible fate and no such thing as an impenetrable fortress. If there were, it would only mean that the attacking force was not strong enough. It must be that we haven't found its weakness yet. Once we find it, we can destroy it completely. Rant had caught up with Shavek, and with a pair of huge claws, he grabbed Shavek and lifted him high into the air. She simply stared at him coldly, offering no resistance. Puff! A mouthful of emerald green venom suddenly gushed from deep within Rant's throat, pouring it all over Shame's body. With a hiss, a thick plume of white smoke rose up, but it did not corrode the armor on the body at all, only leaving some dark marks. The Star Clan's armor is really tough. She coldly made her assessment. Then Rant swung his claws and slammed it violently onto the ground. Flesh and blood carry human memories. If we can't completely destroy you, then we'll smash you in and give you a concussion. We'll see just how extreme the limits of carbon-based materials can be on you. He was right there, launching a relentless attack on the shaved head, as if venting his frustration. For a full 10 minutes, Shave did not put up any decent resistance. His body was constantly twisted, broken, and even pulverized. But no matter how badly he was damaged, he could always heal his injuries in the shortest amount of time. Rant was even somewhat exasperated, and directly used his enormous body to slam it hard into the ground, even smashing through more than a dozen layers of metal and embedding it deep into an incredibly thick metal floor. But 10 seconds later, the body of the shaved one emerged from the depths of the ground completely unharmed. He glanced at Lampt and said in a tone that seemed calm but was actually laced with sarcasm, "It seems you have no way to kill her." Lampt stared at him coldly. "You're a monster. But what if you can't kill Dodo?" She twisted her neck and said, "Then I'll kill you." As soon as he finished speaking, he unleashed his power, soaring through the air at an unimaginable speed. As an enhancement-type Devil Fruit user, Drum was already fast enough, but he still felt like he couldn't keep up with Drum's figure. As he swept through the air, a white tangent line formed in the sky, piercing straight through Ram's body. Laugh. Rand's body was cut in half with a deep gash several meters deep. Wherever it passed, armor and flesh were cut in half, and large amounts of blood gushed out from the wounds. Upon seeing the scene, Rand's eyes narrowed sharply. Has this guy adapted to the power and speed of the attack, thus becoming a powerful melee-type ability user? However, despite suffering such severe injuries, Rampt did not die. The muscles snapped shut, and the severed muscle fibers and nerves were even able to repair themselves. The little bit of blood that gushed out was nothing to his body. When he turned around and saw Rampt's performance, he was somewhat surprised. Your vitality seems to be quite tenacious. Snort. Rampt laughed dismissively. If we're talking about physical strength, we're no worse than you. The spider demon race is one of the most physically powerful races in this universe. When Zhang Yi shot him in the center of the chest with an arrow, creating such a large hole that went right through him, he was not only unharmed, but was also able to run wildly, which shows how strong his vitality was. Without such confidence, it would be impossible to engage in a direct confrontation with this type 2 wild puppet. Without uttering a word, he continued his attack. He became faster, and his attacks became even more ferocious. It swept across the air again and again, like a shadow, catching Rand off guard, and the wounds on his body increased. The worst time was when they almost cut his head off his neck. Chapter 2883 Type Abandoned Puppet attacks this time. Ram defends while Shave launches the attack. Ram tucked his head into his neck, using his heavy armor and arms for defense. Each time his body cracked open, it was repaired with incredible speed. The battle between the two looked like a turn-based game, simple, brutal, yet incredibly exciting, unlike a battle between two powerful warriors at the level of Black Knights. Shaved body was also stained dark green with Rand's blood. Looking at Rand, who was constantly being attacked, his shaved eyes held only endless coldness. Is that all? You only know how to passively take the beatings and dare not fight back. This kind of battle made me feel very bored because I desperately wanted to encounter a strong opponent. Only when the opponent uses every means to attack can fully unleash its abilities. Ramp lowered his defensive arms and grinned at D. That's right, this is the only way we can do it because isn't this your biggest weakness? These words seemed inexplicable, but the next moment, Shah's body suddenly stopped in midair, as if someone had suddenly pressed some mysterious switch on his body. Suddenly, he found that every cell in his body was becoming numb, and his hands and feet were no longer under his control. What happened? He looked down at his right hand. All 5 fingers were trembling slightly, and he couldn't even make a fist. You poisoned the? Impossible. My body is immune to all toxins in this world. There's simply no poison that can affect me. When Ramp said these words, there was no fear or anger in his eyes, but rather excitement. The monsters desperately crave such unexpected situations, for only in this way can they, as combat weapons, continuously discover their own weaknesses and thus evolve. Of course, Rand wasn't foolish enough to tell the other party what he had done. He simply smiled and revealed his enormous and ugly head. You'll find out what's going to happen soon enough. Rand certainly didn't poison the other party, but the body of the person, especially the blood of the person, contained an extremely terrifying biological factor. The reason why the spider demon race was able to dominate and stand among all races with its incredibly strong flesh and blood body is because of their terrifyingly immortal physical qualities. The source of this lies hidden in the blood of those biological factors can strengthen their physical bodies, enhance their vitality, and even give them the amazing ability to regenerate even if only a scale or claw remains, as long as their physical body is not completely destroyed. What Ramet did was planned from the very beginning. Knowing full well that the wild puppet possesses strong adaptability, and knowing that these guys are almost unkillable, how could I possibly be foolish enough to engage in a stupid close-quarters battle with them? Therefore, did not use any extra abilities at all, but instead forced the opponent to continuously strengthen their physical abilities, resulting in adaptive changes. As the battle continued, the strength of Shu's physical body kept increasing. Rampt simply let his opponent attack his body, then splashed his blood all over the other person. After such prolonged immersion, the powerful biological factors, like a tonic, will be completely absorbed by the opponent's body. The wild puppet can absorb an enemy's attack on various levels, so they can absorb the biological factors of the spider demon's blood even faster. However, a problem arises. Spider demons of Ram's caliber have a body size exceeding several hundred meters, so the biotin within their bodies is extremely powerful. After absorbing these biological factors, the body was unable to withstand the positive stimulation for a short period of time. That's right, they can resist all viral attacks, but the biological factors positively enhance their bodies, so they cannot be identified as being harmed, and thus the damage is neutralized. Therefore, the current state of the shaved body is not that it has become weaker, but rather stronger. However, because its physical body has become too strong, it has exceeded the control of its mind. This causes the body to react like a poison, resulting in a confusion at the level of consciousness, which in turn leads to physical control. Ramp slowly walked towards the shaved head of the shaving body. A giant chrysanthemum-shaped mouth opened on the chest of the shaved head, and in an instant, it sprayed out a white net, which directly bound the shaved head to its body. The soft, white netting, covered in murky mucus, clung tightly to the shaved body before beginning to shrink. Rand bit off his own arm, pouring a torrent of blood like a fountain onto his shaved body. The simplest way to deal with you guys who like to absorb the power of the people is to burst you apart. Don't underestimate me, you bastard. No matter what, I am the Spider Demon Emperor Rant. Although it does not possess a typical sealing method like Zhang Yi's spatial ability, it can still bind the opponent and prevent them from moving. Isn't that also a form of sealing? Shaved body was constantly drenched in dark green blood. Even the spider webs were stained and changed color. Immediately, Rant grabbed the spider web and began to pull it into his body. Type Wild Puppet. Your research value is much higher than those Type 1 wild puppets that have no consciousness. If we can take you with us, this trip will not have been in vain. At that moment, the shaved head finally spoke. You have truly surprised me. I never imagined that among the 2 billion people who perished in our star clan, such a talented race as yours would emerge. Indeed, the Creator is constantly refining the concept of creating humans. However, there's one thing you seem to have missed. He looked at Rant, and a strange smile appeared on his previously expressionless face. You're completely different from those brainless guys you've met before. Rant felt a chill run down his spine, realizing that something out of control was about to happen. Just as accelerated the retraction of the spider web, he suddenly saw the body of the shaved one in front of him begin to melt in a strange way. The body turned into a viscous blood and flesh mixture that slowly flowed out along the incredibly tough technological battle armor. This guy is dismembering his own body. Rant had no idea what the other party wanted to do. Every cell in my body has been infected by me, and I have no control over it. If one sheds the physical body, what remains in the end is the core of the body. But how can that thing possibly resist the body?
Alright, that's it for today's chapter. Tell me in the comments which part you enjoyed the most. If you love manga style stories, don't forget to like the video and subscribe the Buzz Play Manga. See you in the next chapter with more surprises. Thank you.